Hello everyone, today we make a particular video like we have already done actually last year for the same cause, from the same origin, the same reason, to thank it's been the greatest donor of Schwerpunkt and a person that I estimate so much for what he has done. He wants to remain anonymous, but he follows us regularly, and he has sent me for the second time these beautiful, ancient evidence, we could call it relics of the past, that to me have all a special meaning, because for actually had never received anything like this. I am, as you know, I have a kind of, if you want, even a spiritual connection with the past. I study history because it makes me feel something, and I won't digress on it. And having received this gift, I felt deeply, deeply moved. And he told me, after all, it's, he's used to that because he collections coins and collects coins, and he, of course, he got used to the thing, and he was impressed. He told me by my reaction, but I truly mean it, right? To me, reading, I can't. I would add more, because even, well, okay, I can't even hint at that. But let's say there are specific reasons why I feel so emotional about these specific gifts, these specific coins, and today I'll try to make it short, because I actually have problems for uploading functionally videos that become too long. So I don't want to sound rude or anything, but I would talk forever. I could even make an extra recording about this. I use the video now just to show you in real what it looks like, what it feels like. These are two beautiful coins. Last time we've seen a denarius, some Byzantine follies, even a Vandal one. Here we have two particular types. We have a silver drachm from, can you guess, Ekbatana. Yes, this comes from today's Hamadan in Iran. It dates between 57 and 38 BC. It's a coin of Orodes II from the same years of the Battle of Karaj that we'll have to discuss naturally on Schwerpunkt. The donor asked me actually, so I will schedule that probably soon as a thank. Right, he sent me these things to thank me essentially for the videos I do, and I think it's to, like, from my side, I can't fully reciprocate for what this means to me, but I also believe that a gift is a blessing for those who make it, not much for those who actually receive it in the same way. But that's how much, in fact, I estimate the person for. The other we see here is, because I asked my donor, because he has enough knowledge of these things, I absolutely don't. Right, so this is the first, not the first time, as you understood, but my first approach ever with ancient coins, and I already learned fairly a lot, considering I knew perfectly nothing from him about this. The other is as far as I understand in the language of coin collecting, sestertius as an approximate name actually for a type of coin that doesn't really have a typology on its own, because it's a provincial one, right? From Mesia, from Vivinacum. We'll analyze them briefly. There is not an astonishing amount of information, but actually the one we have is pretty fascinating. So, looking at the first one, as I told you, it's a silver drachm from Ekbatana, Hamadan, Iran, where there was a specific mint, right? We can't track this stuff because there are specific symbols attached to means we know. It weighs almost 4 grams. It has a diameter roughly 2 centimeters. And here we can see in the obverse a bearded and diademed bust on the left. See the pointed beard, a wart on the forehead, a torque ending in griffin, now speak of the symbolisms. And a star upper left, crescent over star upper right. This is beautiful because the torque here, it speaks for the universal languages here applied. The torque, as you know, was this broader symbol of chaining, literally, to the divinity, sort of possession, right? A magic bond that we can't find in the like in the Celtic torque, for mostly famous for, but actually was used by all these other peoples. The Parthians came in from the steppes themselves. The Iranians used them. The Romans used them as well. It's the same berserker. Think about the Danish iron ring of even of the early medieval tradition. It was a common language in here that tied these men, these leaders, to the divinity. That is to say, they were possessed and driven by, because it was believed that they would fundamentally derive this power, but because in thanks to their virtue, right, as commanders. So the torque, universal symbol. The crescent too. I don't have many information on it, but here's this Arsacid symbolism specifically. But it's an ancient, I think from Sumeria we can't get the stuff. It will become the same symbol, famously enough, of adopted by the same Romans, also by the Byzantine Empire, by the Ottomans themselves. It's always the same thing. It comes from the same background. Naturally, it has a symbolism attached to the idea of the rise of power. Then, and I won't say more. Then from the other side, we see an archer, essentially. It's curious, we talked about composite bow. This looks like the fact the Scythian type we were discussing at that point, that the Parthians had, coming from the same background. So it's symbol of, in the East, like a deep symbol of power, sometimes more than the sword, not entire, but still more associated with power than in the West. This figure wears a bashlik and a cloak. He's seated right on a throne, has the bow in the right hand, an anchor, I don't know, say it in English, anchor, I think, with trident-like end behind the throne, and a monogram below the bow, and a square 7-line legend around. Now, I asked my donor, the first thing I imagine here, so here we are in 1st century BC Parthia, right? In a moment in which the Arsacids had expanded in the Middle and in the Near East. And at this time, the Seleucid Empire was still out there. Actually was under Roman, tutelage, if you want. It was also Armenian involvement in that. But the first thing I asked to my donor is, I see an anchor. I think of this syncresis, as we'll see now, symbolisms, also reading the legend in Greek. Yes, this is, of course, a Persian coin, you could say, with essentially Hellenic type and with Hellenic writing. So in areas that were deeply analyzed since the time of Alexander, in a sense, that we can't speak in certain communities living under the Arsacid Empire of Partho-Hellenic people, right? And chiefly, when we think of coins, also trade, Greeks were prominent in that. So there was a political interest in next to the functional one, naturally, as always, and also in the symbology we'll read in a while. But I said the anchor. Okay, these guys had occupied. The Parthians were settled as vassals of the Seleucids at some point towards 120 BC. We'll speak later of Mithridates, the second, that basically expanded their power. They fought against the Seleucids and defeated them in battle, and yet took this empire that ideally they were thinking was the Alexandrian one, right? So that is the mindset. You rule in a place being conquered by Alexander. You want that legacy for yourself, and you speak that common language. Seleucids had been fundamentally about that. The anchor, as you know, was a symbol of the Seleucids. So I asked, is this a Seleucid appropriation of, Seleucid legacy for the sake of legitimization? My donor said, well, fundamentally, this is probably, we don't know, right? This is the symbol of the mint, right? But I checked randomly today that actually the first Seleucid royal mint was the one of Seleucia on the Tigris, right? It was the first capital of the Seleucid Empire, and then shifted to Antioch, where in fact the mint was transferred eventually, and even minters were moved from Seleucia to Syria, and had this, apparently, at least I've read, found on the internet, doesn't have much of a this anchor trident form, whether it's the perfect connection with symbolism, but it was the symbol of the Seleucid royal mint. So I presume that at the end of the day, yes, there was a connection between the symbol of the anchor, the legend that Seleucus basically stumbled into something emerging from the ground close to the Seleucia, what would become Seleucia itself, in fact, and they found out it was an anchor, right? Ptolemaeus told him, look, this goes well, and it's a symbol of safety, right? Of next stability, fortune, and so on. So yeah, I think this could be, aside from the fact that of course the mints had these symbols, but in fact they could match, could be literally like kind of an appropriation of that. And now I don't know, but I presume by this time actually Seleucia itself was under Parthian control, which could be, even though we're talking about Ecbatana, but still, having seized even certain places might have helped pouring into, our Sassanid symbolism, the anchor. It's just an hypothesis, frankly. I don't know. I think we don't know, right? As the donor said, I think that there's no explicit evidence of that, but it could be, at least I presume. Then I can be wrong, of course. Then the legend that is written in Greek. Here you can't quite read it, but basically it says, Basileus Basileon Arsaku Evergetu Dikaio Epiphanus Philellenos. So here basically we have quite of a nice mix of properly Achaemenid, let's say Alexandrine / Hellenistic, Diadochois, and symbolism with now the Sassanid grip on it. So Basileus Basileon, as you know, is King of Kings. So this was the ancient Persian title. Probably was also more ancient than that. Was assumed in the Alexandrine Empire by the supreme ruler, as you understand. It's like, I don't know, the Khan and Kagan, right? So you are the leader of the leaders, and that expressed naturally the universality of power. Arsaku here references, of course, to the Arsacid dynasty of Orodes that was minting the stuff, having the stuff mint, not himself, of course. Evergetus, so the benefactor, Evergetus, the good deed maker, right? All this in a kind of semi-divine sense, even. So something glorious, miraculous, we could say, that could come, always remembered for ancient religious standards, was pretty universal. This all stemmed from the divinity. Man's glory is not human, it's divine, always. So if this guy could boast these titles, it had become somewhat standard in the among the Hellenistic rulers to define certain, the Romans would have called them cognomina, right? So these were surnames that were attached for some specific characteristic that now, however, was being used in a very, we are at the end of the Hellenistic, of the Diadochoi at the end of the day. So it was its extremization, if you want, and always consider that all these, the least powerful you are, the more you tend to bring all these ideological factors together if you can't move them more than much. So then diakio means just, righteous. Epiphanes means here, let's say, literally standing out, like glorious, illustrious, but in the sense of a manifest divinity of power in that sense. And Philellenos naturally means, Greek friendly, literally. So as you understand, this is basically the full legacy of Achaemenid power, the King of Kings, and of the Alexandrine / successors titles adopted by the Parthians already from quite a time. Consider that the first to use, I think, the term I think Evergetus was Mithridates II of Parthia. That was the guy who, as we said, had expanded Parthian Arsacid boundaries, also seizing Seleucid lands and so on. So that was meant to be. This is obviously written in Greek alphabet, capital letters. And honestly, this is my favorite one among the two, because the other is amazing as well. And actually, well, I don't know whether it's my favorite, because it's the one that impressed me the most, because I wouldn't think it would come from Ecbatana proper. That exotic character kind of struck me. But passing to the second, to the Sestertius, this is instead coming from Dacius times. It was probably minted in 250 AD. We are in the 3rd century crisis, and we have a beautiful picture here depicting the symbols of the Legio Quarta Flavia Felix and the Legio Septima Claudia, legions that had participated at that time at the Battle of Abritus. It would participate, at least, because the battle is from 251. You know, it was a battle fought between the Goths and the Romans in this area north of Nicopolis, on the Danube, today's Bulgaria, in June 251. As I was saying, the Romans were defeated, and this battle is famous because Dacius, Emperor Dacius, and also Irenaeus Etruscus died in battle. So that was the first time against the barbarians in Roman history, and this, at least our donor gave me this information as saying it's uncertain given the source, but let's say it's possible at least that this coin was used to pay some soldiers who had taken part in the battle, right? So the survivors, we would say. This comes, what I didn't say, from Viminacium, right? In today's Serbia, the time Moesia if you prefer. I must say, I hope now it's something so distant and uncertain that I don't want to anticipate something, but it could be possible that next year I could make a tour of the entire Danubian limes from Germany to Bulgaria, and this is like there's a huge question mark, and it's unlikely, but if it is so, I would pass through there, and it would be fantastic. And I'm also now, for other reasons, actually connected to the area, to the country. This is in today's Serbia, right? And it struck me how random, my donor chose autonomously. I told him, he was very nice actually. He told me, look, this is my collection, I have this money, I would like, you can pick two. And I told him, you choose, because I thought he would be tasteful, and he wasn't that. And randomly it came out Viminacium, that if you knew what the background to this question mark, it's something that has a deep meaning to me at this point, and I really, really hope to visit the place. I've been on the Danubian limes to certain sites, and I hope to come back there, but I've never been there before. So I really hope to. This is, if I understand, I don't know whether copper, bronze, I don't know, that I don't understand, it's an alloy. And here, Viminacium was occupied by the Romans since Augustan times, but it had been made a colony in the first by I don't know whether by Gordian III, that I think so, yes, that actually gave Viminacium the status of Roman colony, so Colonia Viminacium specifically. And here in the legend we find PHMS Col Vim, that stands for Province Mesiae Superioris Colonia Viminacium, right? So Viminacium colony of the province of Upper Mesia. The picture here is the female personification of Mesia, standing between the lion and the bull, that were respectively the symbols of the two aforementioned legions, right? That the cement and the fort that were quartered in the province, and as we've seen, participated in the Battle of Brittus against the Goths. So in here we find also Imp Trajanus Decius Aug, which naturally stands from Imperator Trajanus Decius Augustus. And it's a pity. There we have also, I didn't say correctly, the legend is PHMS called Vim, with the addition an XI, which naturally means anno undecimo, right? So of the 11th year, because this is exactly the year in which the colony was properly founded. So that's how we can date the minting to 249.50 from the foundation 239, right? And it was the same. 239 was the same year which, having acquired colony status, Viminacum also had achieved the right of minting bronze coins. So it's very, very specific. It's very beautiful. And this would be fundamentally a provincial type of coin. That is, we don't find it, I presume, circulating. Let's say more than much was specifically struck from Viminacum in a moment in which the command of emperors on these ever more important frontiers would become, in fact, tied to the local dimension. Even of an empire was fragmenting, and our donor told me that this is actually normal, especially for the eastern part of the empire. That is, the west had a much more uniform coinage, while the east began to be, in a sense, more heterogeneous at this time. And so this would be a specifically local coin, if we could say. And naturally, there was even here authoritative, symbolical, political prestige attached to even providing a mint coin, giving rights to a city there that would have its own political and strategical role to support these rulers and so on. So it's actually very important also to understand through these patterns. Well, it's a pity that time, as you see here, made its course. You can't really see well like in the other coin, but like the sheer meaning that this coin has for me, I'd say actually I like this one better than the Persian one. The Persian one excited me the most, but the more I learned about the second, the more it struck my heart. So I stop it here because we could expand maybe at some other video or some other recording. For the video limits, I concluded here, but I would like to thank our donor, Dad, is a fantastic person. He is very sympathetic. We had a chat a couple of times. He follows us. He provided us also with interesting information here and there, and he's a great person. I thank him for all this because he really left a mark. Right? I know sometimes you write me. He also told me that, for example, I don't know, when we talk about the religious background of these symbols and so on, he told me explicitly, I see money now in a different way because of what you told in Schwerpunkt, and I see those things I said in a different way now, looking at these beautiful coins that you sent to me. So I thank you enormously, because what expanded this within me, morally and materially at this point, because that's the thing that strikes the most, and together, it has a particular meaning in my life now, and I treasure these coins as a very special gift from a great dedicated person that is also very competent in his field. He didn't tell me back in the day, the first time we called, he's a scientist, properly meant. So, and it's beautiful, in my opinion, that I say it on Schwerpunkt all the time, that there is this scientific and humanistic interest coupled. That is what makes a person really the clever person that he also showed to be. Right. So I've met, I've contacted, let's say, very few people. Never met anyone through Schwerpunkt. But I've contacted very few people. These people are really amazing, and so my undeserving, let's say, thank for what he did for us, right? Because he knows that I'm going to make these videos, and I think honestly, I confess you, I didn't know anything about this stuff before, and I can't say consequently I simply ignored the thing. I didn't give a damn. This has changed my mind, and this is how things happen in life. And it's often the most unexpected that makes you grow more. So thank you again. I wish you all the best, as always. This times and I hope that I can minimally, reciprocate with my videos. They're actually pretty humble thing. I may be consistent, I can't always be there, yeah, but it is not so much as what at least this gift has meant to me. So for now, we stop it here. I won't make the usual conclusion. I hope you enjoyed the video, and once again, thank you very much. Bye.